Tank King, we're coming online. Time on up. Yeah. We don't play roles, we just walk in the flame. MD calling shots like he coached the game. Boss move. Suited and grind, got that boss man sound. Yes, sir. Vision so clean, he could lead the whole town.
What's going on, America? Welcome to the Hornsmen Show. I'm your host, MD, and today in the studio, we got the waiter. Rodney Waits, what up?
Look at your boy for the last show of the season. Got the red and white for our special guest, but I had to show him where I was from. So shout out to all my people that love these colors and from the Mo, man. Let's have a good one.
I love it. Toma T, we got Toma T in the building. What's up, Toma?
Well, just like Waits, I've got my form-figured Whataburger shirt on, baby, with all the toppings. Shout out to you, Waits, because it was just your birthday. So happy birthday, brother. Happy birthday.
I love it. Gip. Welcome back, brother. What's good?
It's good to be back. Gridiron Gospel on y'all. It's coming tonight from the book of David, and I don't want to give too much away. We'll be preaching from that scripture. So
Okay.
It's good.
I love it. Hey, for those that are watching and joining us, man, we've been doing this all season long, and we've been doing it for multiplicitude. Shout out to Steve Litton with that word, a multiplicitude of years. We're just some Longhorns that love Longhorn sports, and we're here to talk about it, bring you some fun, bring you some inside scoop on the Longhorns, and bring you some amazing guests. And today's guest, let's talk about today's guest. Born in Dallas, Skyline High School, graduate of the University of Texas at Austin, and graduate of the University Nebraska College of Law. David first joined Athletes First in 2010 as an intern. 2 years later, he became an NFLPA certified contract advisor and full-time agent. Let's welcome to the studio our friend, David Mulugheta.
We gotta get these sound effects up.
Get the sound effects up.
Need my kazoo.
David, what's up, brother?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Man. Doing wonderful, man. First of all, I know you're a busy man, so appreciate you coming out to the show, and welcome to the Hornsman Show. We're gonna jump right in it. Normally, we have a what you know section where we do some quizzes, but when we have somebody special on the show, we kind of clear our slate and make time for what the people want to hear. And I know the people want to hear from you, so we're gonna get started. Yeah, tell us about your journey in becoming the top NFL agent according to Forbes 2025 ranking of the most powerful sports agents, and the first NFL agent who negotiated over $1 billion in player contracts in a single year. Was being an agent always your dream?
Before I get going, I see you don't have no makeup there in that room, huh, Marlon?
Oh, wow. I like
That's exactly what leadership does.
That forehead shining over there.
Look at it. I love it.
Shining.
I love it. It is. It is. The alphas are bright, so that's what we do.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. I was talking too much. Go ahead.
I know it. Hey, was becoming an agent always one of your dreams?
No, man. To be candid, I never thought about being an agent until probably this summer before I started law school. Growing up in an immigrant family, and I've told this story many times before. My parents always kind of preached you're either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Those are kind of the three fields that they were familiar with, where you could do well for yourself. So those were kind of that was the narrative of my household. So my brother went to Texas A&M. He was an engineering major, so it was kind of expected of me. I got to follow one of those three paths. But I was planning on going to law school. I was I graduated from the business school, McCombs in Texas. So my plan was to do M&A work, merger and acquisitions, corporate law. So that was the plan until I met Jamal Charles, who to this day is one of my best friends, and he was entering the NFL draft that spring, and I went out there to visit him while he was training, and kind of the story goes from there.
I love it. Well, let me ask you this question. I heard a vicious rumor that you were throwing 70-mile-an-hour pitches by the age of 12.
The boy had heat.
That boy had that heat. So why NFL agent instead of MLB or NBA?
Man, I grew up in the '90s in Dallas. That should tell the story. You know what I mean? For everybody that wonders where those crazy lunatic Cowboys fans came from, the '90s in Dallas. Where the Cowboys were kind of became America's team. I like to think so. Growing up, was a huge Cowboys fan. My dad was a big Cowboys fan. Unfortunately, I was 103 pounds as a freshman in high school, so football was not in the cards for me. But I obviously enjoyed watching the game. I grew up watching Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Deion Sanders, Eric Williams. I can go on and on. Probably name all 22 starters on those Cowboy playoff
Jeez.
teams. So
Yeah.
that's where my love of the game came from. So it was kind of a natural fit for me.
Was
I
it?
love
I don't mean to jump in, but I do. Was it also the "To the Bowl, Y'all" song that was on
to the
K104
bowl.
that
To the
Dallas
bowl,
folks
y'all. To the bowl.
still
Yeah,
sing
remember
to
that?
this day?
We had a lot of good songs, man. We had a lot of good songs back then. I remember the Shark had a song. I don't know if y'all remember the safety.
Kenneth Gant?
Yeah. So the Shark, he had a
Ron
couple
Gant.
on there on K104. So yeah, man. I
Yes.
mean, those were the days. Growing up. I went to what was it 3 or 4 Cowboys parades downtown. So
Mm.
those were the good old days.
It's good to have some representation from Dallas on here because
It's tough
usually I
for him.
get the
It's been
Houston
tough for him.
hate. I get the Houston hate on here, so I appreciate that representation.
Well, let me jump on that because as a reformed Cowboys fan and lifetime Oilers fan, I can speak to transitioning to a better place. David, the agent client relationship is really important, valuable to you. And what things when engaging with a new client? What are you looking for?
I think for me in a world that's kind of transactional, when it comes to most things, right? Not only being an agent, but I think in the agent world, when you're dealing with people, and each person is different and what they like, what they don't like, you can walk into any room and do the same thing. And one family might think you're the greatest thing on earth, and you do the exact same thing in another room, and that family thinks that they're ready to leave 2 minutes into the presentation. So in a world where things are constantly changing, I think the one thing that doesn't is just those relationships, being able to be transparent, honest. Guys feeling that the relationship is much more than just business based. That you're not going to do a contract and say, hey, I'll call you in 3 or 4 years from now when the contract is up. Tell guys all the time, football is part of who you are. It's not who you are, as a whole, right? It's just part of what you do. It's a platform for you. So we're really big on the family part of it. We've been blessed to have the opportunity to work with a lot of these, guys and their families. So, the least we can do is have a real relationship with them.
So you kind of touched on this earlier. Thank you for that input. But you touched on your relationship with Jamal and kind of how that grew into what you are now. What have been some of your most pivotal client signings and why? In addition to what you discussed with Jamal.
Uh, hmm. I'd say, my first client, Earl Thomas, who really gave me the opportunity, would be probably the most pivotal, right? Coming in, I was still in law school at the time, giving me the opportunity when he had probably every top NFL agency recruiting him, top 15 pick. Obviously, we had a previous relationship, before he came out, but for him to say, hey, at the end of the day, I trust you, and I trust that you're going to put me in the best position, even though you may not have the experience that some of these other folks have. And I think a lot of times with anything, a lot of times we don't get the opportunities that others do. So I think getting the opportunity is super important. You can't really show what you can do until you're given the opportunity. And sometimes it takes somebody with, a real strong belief in themselves to give you that opportunity instead of falling kind of in line with the norm.
For
Yeah.
sure. On the flip side, and thank you for that, for sharing that. But on the flip side, what makes you not want to work with a client anymore? Have you ever dropped a client and just said, I'm done with this cat?
I have one time I think that I've proactively fired a client. Um, and that was, it was more just how do I say this without throwing anybody under the bus? I think for me, there's a level of mutual respect that has to exist in any relationship, right? No matter what the finances look like, at the end of the day, we all got to wake up and look at ourselves in the mirror and be able to, kind of feel like we're doing the right thing and we're moving in a way that we can be proud of. And obviously, I got 3 little boys, so at the end of the day, their perception of their dad is important to me. So some things you just don't, no matter what the finances look like, you just can't allow to happen. So, sometimes guys get a little ahead of themselves, and it was one situation where, I thought it was best, for us going our separate ways, but that rarely happens. It's happened once in my 18 or so years in the business.
Nice.
I love it. So we got first of all, if you're watching live, go ahead and put your questions in the chat. Toma Toma's on the chat checking the questions. He'll bring them up as we go along. But David, we're gonna keep it 100 with you. So one of the things we like to do is we like to have a little fun on the show. So I figured that client must have been an Omega or something.
I was gonna ask about the fat brother relationship. We're gonna talk about that in a minute.
He was like, wait a minute. He was barking in meetings and stuff, and you was like, we ain't gonna have that. Man, shout out to the Qs, man.
My lighting is terrible. I apologize in here.
It's all good. But I mean,
your lighting is great, by the way, Marlon.
Shiny, shiny bright.
I knew it was right. Circle back. You're like, no,
here's the great thing. With them $1 billion contracts, man, you got to get that lighting fix, homie.
You're right. That's on me.
And I know you got a speed dial to him. Hey, man, let's get to a little bit of football. For some reason, Jerry Jones didn't want you in the room with Micah Parsons when it was time to negotiate his contract. We're not going to talk about that, but what's your philosophy when you go into the room, and how do you represent your clients when making those negotiations?
Yeah, I think the way I operate, I have a real singular focus when it comes to that, and that's what's best for the client at all times, right? And sometimes that causes disagreements between yourself and the ball club you're dealing with. At the end of the day, their job is to do what's best for their ball club, and for us is to do what's best for the client. And sometimes that's monetarily, sometimes that's guarantee, sometimes that's the structure. There's different things. Like I said, every player is different. They're in different parts of their career. They play different positions. The longevity is different. So we go in there with what's best for what would be the best conclusion to this deal for said client, and we kind of work our way backwards to get there. At the end of the day, you try to come to a win-win as much as you can, because you are dealing with these teams. You're going to deal with them again, but at the same time, the most important thing is getting what you feel like is best for your client. And sometimes that causes a little strain and strife in relationships with teams and owners or front offices or GMs, whoever it may be. But I think at the end of the day, when there's a mutual respect and they know you're doing it because, your job is to do what's best and your fiduciary is to your client, it's normally those feelings get kind of washed over pretty quick.
Yeah, one of the things I think you said in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, if your client is worth $10 million, you're not gonna get him $9.9 million. You're gonna get him all $10 million.
Yeah. For us, like, I think it's a little different than the way I say it, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
Tell us
how you're shining now. That light is bright, so
you're right there. Yeah, I mean, for us, it's like, at the end of the day, our goal is to get you at the very minimum what you're worth, right? I think that's kind of the worst case scenario. The way we look at it is we're not taking, less than your worth, right? So if they owe you $10, we're gonna, we're not walking away with $9.99. So you're going to get at least 10, but obviously the goal is to get you 12, 13, 14, to get you overpaid. I think the biggest compliment you can pay to an agent, well, as far as I'm concerned, is say, hey, man, your client's overpaid. That means I've done my job, right? If the feelings that he's overpaid. So for us, it's always, how do we maximize it? At the end of the day, the NFL, as many know, stands for not for long. You could be on top of the world one day and, you're one injury away from, maybe never playing again. So every dollar counts, every contract counts, every year counts. So sometimes I think we get a bad rap as being greedy or this or that. But at the end of the day, if you hire somebody to represent you, you want them to be greedy for you.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna bring it back to like Longhorn life, right? And you talked about your first client. You have several clients that are there. One thing that's big to me, man, I've always been impressed with you is the family ties motto that you have. And so you were on campus right around some them glory years of UT. So tell us a little bit about how first, and we're gonna get into stuff with the draft, a little bit about what on campus at UT and what that climate looked like, and then football and how that affected how it went to you in your career.
Yeah, man, I was UT in the early 2000s. I want to age myself too much. Marlon was there before me. Actually, all you guys were there before me. So just so we're all on the same page. I'm the youngest one in the group. But yeah, so
we paid his Angela still there. His hairline's still there too. So you look good.
There you go.
We paid the light.
But I mean, Texas, man, I had a great experience at Texas. Obviously it was definitely different. It was a culture shock for me from where I came from in Pleasant Grove, in East Dallas. So definitely different than kind of what I was used to. But it was good for me. It helped me grow. Being around different people, definitely a different environment than what I was accustomed to. I think was real pivotal in my growth at 18, 19, 20 years old. Super important. But I was lucky enough to join the most illustrious organization on campus. At the time, Kappa Alpha Psi.
Cut the film. Cut the tape.
Stop.
Shout
Stop
out
right
to
there.
it,
So
man.
yeah. So that I think that that was a great experience. Obviously, I'm not sure if all you guys are alphas. I know at least the top two are.
Yeah,
Rodney
thank
and
you
Marlon.
for making me.
I'm ambidextrous, bro. I'm NATO, man.
Now-
I'm cool with
Okay,
everybody.
You're
Camp
Switzerland.
Hill, NATO,
You're
whatever y'all
Switzerland.
need. Yeah,
Switzerland over there.
whatever you
Okay.
need to be.
Now, what I
Mr.
do, I'm gonna
Penhall.
jump in real quick because what the problem was that the Alphas wasn't on the yard when you was in school, so
Here we go.
that's why I was
Oh,
like, yeah, it makes sense because it was Tony Jones. Shout out to
that,
Jonesy who
and
couldn't
that's
make
my
it.
guy. I love
Yeah.
Tony. Tony's my guy.
See, so shout out to Jonesy, but we took a little break from being on the yard for some random allegations and
Okay, back to our regular scheduled program.
Right.
So,
That's where
Stay
I
on track.
bro.
so as we talk about, so that's a great segue though, Con and D. Like, so obviously we're all frat brothers, chapter brothers. We have a relationship because as African Americans on campus at what other people call PWIs, that actually prepares us because the most of the world and the places that we're going to, obviously like a Nebraska, it gets you to be like, okay, hey, yes, in a Jester, I can sit there and be around all black people, but once I leave, I'm amongst whatever continues to be society. So can you kind of give us a little bit about, we have draft day and you've got your first draft day. Did you have any kind of fear? Kind of go through that because like you said, you have a frat brother that is giving you this chance, but it's also a tier of unknown, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm sorry, man. Let me hear the question one more time.
What was your draft day situation? Tell us how you felt about it, especially with the fact that you guys were just starting.
Yeah. So first draft day again. I think I was I'm trying to remember. I think I was still in school. Actually, I think I was still in law school when Earl's draft day. So I don't think I was able to attend the actual draft with him. But I was still in classes at UNL Law. I think we were going in the finals or something of that nature. So I wasn't able to be there with him. My first actual, I guess, real draft experience in my mind would probably be 2013 with Kenny Vaccaro. That was the first time I was in the green room. That was the first year I was certified. And I mean, it's a surreal moment, to be candid with you. You're sitting in a room, the room that you've watched on TV, numerous, year after year after year. And to be sitting in that room definitely was kind of, I had to kind of take a step back and really enjoy it, right? And be like, man, I'm here. But at the same time, it's nerve wracking, right? You're sitting there, Kenny at the time was projected to be a first round pick. We weren't sure where he'd go, anywhere between, I think at the time we thought he'd go somewhere between 12 and 20 or so, is kind of what the projection was. And the funny thing, which now I know and I've learned, but at the time, I learned if you tell somebody they're going between 12 and 20, in their mind, they're going 12, right?
Yeah,
there is no between 12 and 20, right? All they heard is 12, right? So I remember sitting there, and again, we've been in every minute in the draft room feels like an hour and a half, by the way. So even if you're the second pick in the draft and you don't go one, you start sweating, right when it gets to two. So we told him, I think we told Kenny between 12 and 20. We get to 12. I forget who goes off the board, and he looks at me, you know what I mean? And I look at him, you know what I mean? It's my first draft. So I don't, I don't really know what to expect either. It's both our first time being there. But just that feeling between picks 12 and then 13, and now you feel like he's never getting drafted, right? And then, obviously shortly thereafter at 14, he got picked. And all the emotions come, but that's the one thing I would say I learned on that first draft day is, you have to really set expectations and be as conservative as you possibly can be, because if not, the mood swings and those emotions get really high really quickly.
Yeah, Toma, I think there's a question from the chat.
Shout out to DJB, who's a brother of the Blue Phi Beta Sigma. He says, I'm an NIL certified in the state. He's currently in law school. He actually has 2 clients so far, and he just wants to continue to succeed. But his question was, as someone who's in law school now, going for his JD, getting ready to sit for the NFLPA contract advisor exam, what's the one thing that will keep a young agent hungry, keep a young agent going? He's at the beginning of that career. Obviously, the passion point, but also any pointers that you would give someone at the early stage of their career, like our man JDP?
Yeah, I would tell him, man, he's really, I don't want to say he's lucky, but he's in a good position right now, getting into the business now. There's really no barrier to entry anymore. When we got in it, you couldn't talk to players until they were 3 years removed from high school. So by the time you were trying to recruit a player, all the major firms, guys that have been in the business 15, 20, 30 years are recruiting the exact same players that you're recruiting, right? So there's that barrier where anybody you're talking to, there's somebody with a lot more experience than you recruiting them. But I think nowadays with NIL and being able to talk to student athletes at such a young age, you're able to have contact. You're able to get to players a lot earlier. And a lot of times you can talk to guys that haven't had any contact with any established agents, and you're able to build that rapport and that relationship so much earlier that you do have a shot at signing guys a lot earlier. And if you're able to do a good job for them before maybe a more established agency comes along, you have a better shot at maybe, at having a client. But I think right now is probably the best time to get in the business, especially if you're somebody that doesn't have maybe the experience that many others may have.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. We have another coming in through the IG chat. This is from our very own Emily Candelaria, who's a UT student right now. MD, you know her, don't you, goddaughter?
Yeah, that's my goddaughter.
Yeah. So her question is, David, what path did you take, when we're kind of getting to that, to become a sports agent? But more importantly, what would you recommend for someone who is an undergrad currently, and what steps should they take? M is a soccer superstar, amazing young lady. But any suggestions? I think what year is she? She's a junior?
Junior going into her senior year.
Going into senior year.
Got you. My best advice is, whatever sport you want to start working in, I would definitely get involved with that sport at your university. Right, get in there, whether you're, an assistant of some sort, whether you're in recruiting, whatever it may be. I think really putting yourself and immersing yourself in that sport at that university. A, it gives you background and understanding the things that go on behind the scenes. And then B, as just as important, you develop relationships with a lot of people at these universities that you're gonna have to deal with when you get on the other side if you want to represent, right? So I think that that would be my biggest kind of piece of advice is get involved in whatever sport you want. You want to be an NFL agent, go volunteer with the football team. Ask how you can help. Ask how you can lend your hand in any way. Basketball, soccer, whatever sport it is. Definitely get involved. She seems like she's a soccer player, so she's as involved as you can get. So I think that'd be very helpful to her in whatever she decides to do in the sports world.
So speaking of relationships and soccer players, I have to say, what up to Acho, what up to Sly, what up to Derek Sherrod? They're gonna choke me. They texting me right now. Obviously,
my lighting has gotten better, by the way.
Yeah. I was gonna say the more cameras I mentioned, the
lighter it gets.
So speaking of relationships, and we've talked about a couple of your clients that were from UT, but you've got guys from Bama, and you name the variety, right? Do you still, you talking about 17, 18 years deep, do you still have, with it coming up, a draft day routine? Do you have something that you just get ready to roll with?
Yeah, man. I think on draft day, I still don't take it for granted. That's what I would say is you never take it for granted, right? So one thing I always do on draft days, man, I call my kids the morning of the draft. They always have a ton of questions. They're big football fans, so I hit them with a FaceTime, talk to them, talk to my wife, and then the next thing I do, I try to get in and see my guys as they get dressed. As they kind of start, get the emotions start getting high. They start getting in their suits. Mom's putting her earrings on, dad is putting his shoes on, whatever it may be, right? Just getting involved in that part of it. That's kind of those those behind the scene moments that you try to cherish, right? Because, for them, for me, it might be, draft number 12, 13, 14, 15 that I've been to, but for them, it's the first one, right? First and last, for most families right now. Every once in a while you get, multiple kids, but for the most part, it's the first and last time they're going to go through it. And, they're super excited. So I try to really, allow myself to kind of be in those moments. And then, like I said, what I learned from day one, right? My first draft is, okay, hey, let's start setting expectations, right? Because at the end of the day, and the reason you set expectations on my end, why I think it's important is because you want that day to be the best day in their life, right? You don't want them to have any, you don't want them to be upset, disappointed, frustrated. So I'd rather give you, worst case scenario, conservative kind of mindset, so that you're pleasantly surprised, when you get drafted, as opposed to, hey, you're going to go 10, you go 13, and now you might not be happy that you went 13 because you thought you were going 10, right? Now, if you tell somebody they're going 15 and they go 13,
Sure.
they're happy. You know what I mean? So for me, it's always, how do we make this day the best day possible, right? This should be one of the best days of your life. And kind of, I've seen it before. It moves fast. I always try to tell families, take a lot of pictures, right? Because in the moment you don't think about it, but when it passes by, you're like, man, I wish I'd taken more pictures. So just the little things like that, make sure that everybody's really taking, really taking the day in, and getting the most out of it.
So speaking of relationships and dressing well, and allegedly on paper, your fraternity brothers, y'all are well dressed and put together. Y'all got the pants and all the things. But you made something great, right? You said something. One of the things that I think that has really separated you from, forget the billions, man, and a brother that looks like us that's an agent. You have the best dressed clients. I can say this without a shadow of a doubt. What's that relationship? Shout out to, do we know anybody that has affiliation? How get you there?
Yeah, man. I might, speaking of fraternity brothers, one of my fraternity brothers, Richard Soto, Soto and Co. is the man behind kind of those fashion statements you see the guys making, for the most part. Not all of them, but a good number of the guys that you see out there. Ricky's yeah, man. As good as I like to think I am at my job, humbly, I think Ricky's just as good as at his. You know what I mean? So does a phenomenal job. He makes my draft shoot every year that I'm there, and a lot of the guys that we work with. He works with a ton of guys from University of Texas. A lot of guys that you see that are sports anchors from Ian Rappaport. So a lot of those guys, he does all their suits as well. So no, he does a phenomenal job.
Yeah, so I got one more.
Ricky did my wedding suit. A couple of my blazers.
There you go.
Yeah, I just want to let it, we wear Ricky. We wear Ricky.
We have some heat coming for this fall from Soto and Co. I hope he lets us get it semi-exclusive, but we have some heat coming. So
he does a good job of creating, some one of a kind looks as well. I mean, some of the stuff he's done for Marquise Goodwin, who's a Texas grad, is incredible. So no, he's definitely gifted when it comes to that.
So one more. So we not necessarily.
Wait, what you got? Wait. I got two in the chat. Let me get these for David.
Let's do it.
So shout out, David. Here's a question. It'd be great to hear your perspective on how early professionals who maybe pursued a traditional path of maybe finance or consulting, right, out of undergrad, but now they're looking to transition. They're looking to pivot, right, and switch careers. How you have any suggestions, or how would you recommend they start that turn, if you will?
Yeah, like I said earlier, kind of the same answer I hate to give it that I gave to the other gentleman that asked the question is, right now there's literally no barrier to entry in the business, right? If you want to get into the representation side, especially on the NIL side, I mean, you can wake up tomorrow and decide that you want to do it. I'm not recommending that for people, because obviously it's, it is a saturated business at this point. But at the same time, you can get into it, and if it's something that you really want to do, you put the time and effort into it. I think a big part of it is just a grassroots part of it. If you're going to get into it at this point, you want to go to the high school games. You want to find out who are the up and coming, rising juniors, rising seniors, those guys that are not in college yet, because that's probably where you're going to have your best shot, as opposed to try to compete with the the more established agents that are recruiting guys in college or at the NFL level.
So
That's
I'll end my draft because I don't know why I just keep rolling with draft. So we see the horror stories on ESPN, right? We see what we think of Aaron Rodgers being there, and he's a Hall of Famer. Most people top 3-5 quarterbacks of all time. Do you have from families to, probably more importantly, some of the teams that come around? Do you have any like crazy stories, and we don't have to name names, where a team is telling you this or doing these things and you have to be like, client is number one, right? So do you have any crazy draft day stories, or even free agency? Because that's going to be the next biggest deal to it.
Man, it's too many to name, to be honest with you, man. I wouldn't even know where to start, to be honest with you. At the end of the day, I think there's a reason that professionals in these type of industries have agents, right? Because at the end of the day, the goal for the teams to pay you as little as they possibly can, right? So the conversations we sometimes have with teams, and what they think of players, and the things that they say behind closed doors. Sometimes, you're happy that the player doesn't have to hear some of this stuff, right? So, from a free agency standpoint, or I wouldn't say free agency, but more of an extension standpoint, you get a lot of that draft day crazy stories. You get, unfortunately, sometimes, family members aren't always getting along, so you get some of that, and you got to kind of deal with that, and kind of keep the peace. That happens every once in a while. So, yeah, man, I'm gonna write a book one day. I'm gonna write a book one day. So,
Uncle Charlie in the draft room. I got you.
man, you know what I mean? So, no, man, but for the most part, like I said, man, everybody's just trying to enjoy the day. Draft day is beautiful. These kids, people think that these guys just fall and win the lottery, but the amount of work that these kids put in to become the best of the best, and be invited, only 15, 16 guys get invited to the draft. And if you're lucky enough to be one of those guys, I mean, the amount of work you've put in, the time, the blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of these kids have been playing ball since they were 5 years old. So I always hate to hear when people are like, oh, they're getting paid all this money, they should be happy to make it. But you never hear that when people are talking about doctors or lawyers or whoever it is, right? And these players, they're until recently, they were unpaid playing this game for 10, 15 years before they ever started making money, right? So so it's a lot of hard work, a lot of discipline, a lot of sacrifices you got to make, eat healthy, work out, be up at 5 in the morning, the different things that they do, and to kind of see that pay off for these guys and their families who also obviously dedicate a lot and have to sacrifice a lot for these kids is it's a special moment.
Nice. Hey, real quick, MD, I know we got some fun questions. I just want to get back to the chat. I had one more question. And, you talked about the importance of really getting down to grassroots, learning, athletes young at the young age and moving on through the process. This is interesting. It's a question really around AI and tech emergence. So they're curious to hear your thoughts on emerging tech advances and how that's impacting sports, particularly your world, right? And the
I'm sure this is about to go over my head, but go ahead. I'm listening.
Anytime
somebody says
let's get into AI lawyers,
scared.
Agents, right? Everything's accessible, technology, right? Does that pose a risk for the bigger picture set in terms of the work that's done like globally from a sports agent perspective? And also, why will your business continue to kind of focus and empower in terms of I keep going back to the grassroots component of it. I feel like that's the difference to the answer to this question, but we want to hear it from you.
Okay, you're gonna have to repeat that one.
Yeah.
One more time.
Will AI lawyers, AI
simplify that for me one more time.
Artificial intelligence.
AI came up with the question.
Artificial intelligence came up with it, so it's learning as we speak.
Okay.
But artificial intelligence lawyers, all you see in all the chat cloths and all those pieces, does that pose a risk to the way business is done now? Let me say it like that.
Man, it's hard for me to say, right? Because if you'd have told me AI was going to be capable of doing the things that it's currently doing, I'd have said you were crazy, right? So, I have no idea, man. It's funny, man. It takes me back to this joke that I heard. Like, if I were to be dropped off, 100 years ago, and I knew everything I know now, people wouldn't believe me. That's what the comedian said, right? Because I'd be like, hey, man, they got these cell phones where you can talk to people in different countries, and they'd be like, oh, how do they do it? I'd be like, I don't know. You know what I mean? So
program the VCR still,
right? I would be absolutely useless to them people. So I say that to say that I have absolutely no idea. AI, I mean, the way at the rate that it's learning, the rate that it's changing, shoot, you never know, man. We might all be looking for a job one day.
Hey, it's real talk.
Maybe now.
Hey, you know what?
Right this second.
I'll tell you one of the things I wanted to in terms of interacting and engaging with brothers from UT and across the world, right? I always find smiles in hearing good stories, especially from good men who are great fathers, right? I know you mentioned earlier, you had 3 boys, I think 8, 10, and 12.
I got one of my boys' jerseys right there.
Shining right there. That's a great dad moment. Post it up.
For sure.
So are you teaching them, like, how does the context of the business and the ways and the work they're doing now, would you want them to go down that same path as you in the context that you talked about your parents and the sacrifices that they made for you? How does that roll for you now as the father of 3 amazing boys?
Man, you know what, man? I was of the mindset that I was really like, hey, I want to push my kids to do this, that, or the third, really kind of, I don't want to say make the decision for them, but kind of push them in a certain direction that I thought would be helpful for them. But my wife has kind of talked me out of that. And, so now I kind of, I kind of just work here. Right. So, but now, man, I try to let them,
smart man. Sorry.
I try to let them kind of, pick and choose what they what they enjoy, what they like, man. I got my oldest son. He has an ant farm down there. You know what I mean? He's really into. He's an intellect. You know what I mean? He can tell you anything you want to know about ants. He probably knows more useless facts than anybody I know. But he does animation. He's into AI and all of that other stuff, right? And I got
I'm
my middle
asking that
boy.
question.
Yeah, exactly, right. And my middle boy, who's he's all football all the time. In his mind, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the college and I'm gonna go to NFL and then this, and it's just a foregone conclusion. But he does that all day. And then I got my baby, who's probably the most athletically gifted of all of them, but unfortunately, he just wants to sit up under his mom all day, right? So for me, it's just more like, hey, y'all got to do something. As long as you guys are doing something athletic, whether they all box and wrestle right now. It's kind of what I got them in, just so they're doing something. But they all, I kind of let them pick what they want to do, and I'm gonna support them as much as I can. Now they got to be doing something positive. Now if you start acting like you don't have no sense, we might have a problem. But as long as they're moving in the right direction, I'm gonna kind of let them pick their own path. I think that's the one thing that my parents put me in a position, obviously, to be able to put them in a position now where they don't have to initially do anything for, like, okay, what's the most financially feasible thing for me to do? What
Yeah.
puts me in the best financial situation? It's more about, hopefully they find things that they want to do and they love doing.
That's awesome. It sounds like you're gonna support them if they decide to pledge Alpha Phi Alpha. But wait, so you had another question.
There's always a line. There's always
He's
a
always
line.
something.
I'm not going down that. So you talking about we're a family, bro. We're big. Obviously I've been hanging around these young Thundercats since the late 1900s. So you talk about your older brother went to A&M. Your younger brother Abel was at Texas. Man, you've been on the Pivot and you've done Pat McAfee, right? And so with us, one, we thank you. I think a little different aspect that we have is we knew you from Texas, right? And we've supported you. And like I said, there was a game where you were in law school and these Thundercats went to the UT versus Nebraska game, and we do that every year. So if you want to come November 14th, we go on to LSU, put a pin in it. So I would like to ask, like, back to the family first deal, man. We've seen, maybe it was Michigan, there was an athletes first, like, tailgate that you have. Besides just being an agent and getting contractual things going, tell us a little bit about what you do besides just doing the transaction stuff and what's important to you as an agent. Because I don't think everybody gets that, because they see the big bucks, but I know way more has to go into that.
Yeah, I mean, the contracts are important, right? But from a literal time aspect, they probably take the least amount of time. You know what I mean? Contracts take anywhere from a few days to, if you're working on a pretty significant deal, might take a couple months to get done. But I mean, most of the other time you're dealing with is either, maintenance, client maintenance, dealing with the day-to-day stuff, or recruiting, right? But for me, like I said, man, we try to make it as non-transactional as possible. We do a lot of events with the guys, obviously, like you said, the tailgate tour is something that's, near and dear to us. We go around to different college towns every week during college football season, just so we can create an environment outside the games where, our NIL clients, their families can come enjoy, free food, drinks, music, and get to know each other, right? If we got clients at Michigan and in Texas, we want those, the Michigan families and the Texas families to get to know each other as well, right? Just creating that, again, that family atmosphere, that family ties atmosphere. We do, we have events in the off season where we have our NFL guys and our college guys get together and work out and get to know each other. I think it's really cool that, when you see these young guys have the opportunity to see, these NFL players who, if you're out there your corner and you see Jalen Ramsey, who's been in the league for 10, 12 years and, has, near, made over $100 million playing football.
Or at one point, the highest paid corner ever. You could say it.
Yeah, well, two times.
Yes,
Two times. Yeah. But seeing him and you show up for the workout and Jalen's been there 45 minutes already warming up and getting his body going and putting in the work, and you're like, man, this guy's he's made over $100 million. I don't know how many all pros and Pro Bowls he has, but he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champ. And I show up for a workout at 11 o'clock workout at 10:50, and I think I'm early, and this guy's been here an hour already warming up and getting his body right. And he's already really done everything that you can do at the position, right? Yeah. So I think it just kind of puts that thought in these young guys' head, like, okay, I'm doing well, but if I want to be great, this is what it takes, right? So I think just creating those type of environments. We do different events. We had Andre Iguodala come speak to the guys one year at Elite Week and kind of just talk to guys about how do you transition from the game, because at some point, every player runs into, whether, rarely is it that a player says, hey, I'm done playing football, right? Or basketball or baseball, insert whatever sports you want. most of the time they tell you, hey, we don't have a jersey for you no more. You know what I mean? And you got to kind of then make that transition. So we've had guys like Andre Iguodala, Gary Baxter, guys come back and talk to our clients and just kind of give them gems and game on, what they should be doing, kind of advice on how to transition out, how to use your platform to put yourself in different rooms. So again, for me, man, we're just very deliberate and intentional in making sure guys are exposed to different things that they can do outside of the game of football. And also making sure that, we connect them with other guys that are going through similar things that they're going through. Because at the end of the day, when you retire, right, and guys have to make that transition, we don't want them to have to do that alone, right? We want to have them have kind of a sounding board of other guys that they've developed this relationship with, that they can have those conversations with, man. So again, we look at it from a very global view as opposed to keeping it transactional.
Yeah. So you brought up the next kind of thing I was going to talk about. So obviously, dominant agent, football, draft day. We talked about all those things, right? But you brought up NIL and college clients. How one was the decision you guys made to go after some NIL clients that are in the collegiate ranks, and how is that different? And don't give too much, obviously, but how is that different than what recruitment looks like, and keeping those relationships going for your new NIL and college clients?
It's just really where you got to meet clients where they're at, right? When they're coming out of high school, obviously the mindset is different, the goals are different. You're working a lot more with the mom, the dad, uncle, whoever, the family members are, a lot closer, right? Because obviously these kids are 16, 17, 18 years old. So you want to make sure that you keep the parents involved in those situations. So it's kind of, you just meeting guys at different parts of their career. As far as this day and age, you really can't expect to recruit guys their junior year of college or their sophomore year of college. Most players are going to have representation of some sort coming out of high school or very early on in college. So that also changes kind of the time frame when you used to have 2-3 years to kind of see what college looks like, develop that relationship. Now you're having to really kind of make those relationships or build those relationships a lot earlier, which for me, I don't mind. Again, I'm a relationship person, so it doesn't bother me. But that's just the way the business has kind of changed a little bit.
And we got some in the chat. We'll come back to them because we have some fun questions to get into. But I do have one question. We talked a lot about relationships, and I'll be honest, just hearing the conversation with you, it's not relationships are just a part of the strategy. They are the strategy. I mean, I've heard you talk. We talked about family and your roots, obviously being a father, and I want to really hear about the Fair Catch Foundation. But the question is, you think about how does family kind of built or kind of identify how you lead, how you represent your clients, and ultimately how you show up for your athletes and clients. And then I want you to talk a little bit about your foundation, which everything's aligned with family, building something that lasts, whether it's in the work that you're doing now or the support work you're doing for the foundation. So it's kind of a two-part question that I'd love you to jump in.
Man, I got a bad memory, so I hope I answer this question right. But for me, from the representation side, how does I think what you asked was how does my family situation affect how I look at representation, and I think having 3 kids, 3 boys, I kind of look at like, who would I want to represent my child, right? If I was in that position, right? What type of man, woman, whatever it is, that's representing your child, what kind of morals, what kind of character do you want that person to have? When you're not around, you want them to be an extension of you, right? As a parent. And I always tell parents, look, man, we're not here to replace you. We're here to be an extension of you, right? You've done a good job to get your child to this point. They didn't get here, on their own. So, you want to make sure as you hand them over, to kind of deal with now this new person in their life that's going to be representing them, that person kind of has this, a similar moral compass that you have, and the conversations that they're going to be having with these student athletes, because again, now they're getting younger and younger, are similar to the ones you're gonna be having. So as a father of 3, I know what I would expect, what that expectation would be if any one of my kids were to get to that point. So I kind of use that as a North Star to the way I should operate, with these people, with these children, I hate to call them children. I feel old. But they are children. No, I'm Unc. I ain't got
you
the
Unc
old
still?
school.
All right.
I'm Unc right
They
now.
got the light
My
on.
baby's old. Yeah, I'm taking that.
I went from big bro to Unc. When I get to old school, I'm done. I'm done when they start calling me old school. Yeah,
Hey,
but so
David.
that's that. And then as far as the foundation, happy you brought that up. Me and my wife started the Fair Catch Foundation, going on almost 10 years now. And for us, obviously, we've been blessed with a lot. So we wanted to give back to the community. And the Fair Catch Foundation was our way of doing such. We've over the last couple of years, we've partnered with Foster's Angels here in Austin, which is a great organization, that helps with foster children. There's not enough. There's not enough being done, as far as the opportunities that are given to these foster kids. A lot of times these kids are kind of, they don't have families and they're kicked out right when they turn 17 or 18, and now you're on your own having to figure it out. So Foster's Angels does a great job, creating opportunities, job training, and everything else for these kids that may not have families to kind of help guide them across that path. So Foster's Angels is a great organization. We've been partnered with them over the last couple of years. Quan Cosby from from Texas, who you guys know, is on their board. So now the great organization, and the foundation is obviously near and dear to my wife and myself, but more importantly, I think for my kids, being able to see kind of what the expectation is, as they say, to whom much is given, much is expected. So for us, for them to be able to see like, hey, everybody may not have the same opportunities. So, it's your job to kind of give back when you can.
Strong.
Speaking of which, David, how can the rest of us get involved in the foundation? How can
Yeah, we do events, and we do events a couple times a year where we raise money. Our biggest event is in the summer, June 20. I want to say it's gonna be the 27th. We do a celebrity waiter night. This year is gonna either be at the guest house in Austin or the guest house in Scottsdale. So we haven't figured it out, but we'll get it up across social media when we get that kind of narrowed down here in the next couple of days.
To interrupt, Kali, I went to the guest house Sunday night. It was phenomenal. Shout out to Phi Beta Sigma. DJ Corrupt was spinning, and I'm going this weekend in Vegas. I just found out you were part of it.
Thanks, Waits, for letting us know your itinerary, bro. We appreciate that.
Love you, brother.
Look, my red shirt is representing. I'm taking it to the next level, right? But the guest house is amazing. So that's really, really cool. We just MD, you want to talk about? We just did a celebrity waiter. MD was with Derek Johnson.
Yeah, I was there. He made me dress up as a waiter, and I was a waiter for Derek. Derek does a phenomenal event as well. I think this might have been the first time he did the waiter night, but he's done. He's always raised money for great causes across the city of Austin. So shout out to DJ.
Yeah. So a couple of things on that. The Derek Johnson Defend the Dream Foundation. Yes, David, thank you for participating in that. I'm an advisory board member for that organization. We raise a lot of money, and it's all for a good cause. And to Wade's point, man, guest house, Scottsdale, we were there in February. Man, first class organization, first class food, everything is great. So if you're in Scottsdale, if you're in Austin, try out guest house, man. Good times, good vibes, good people, all of the things. Now we've talked a little bit about agent stuff, David, and the draft, et cetera, et cetera. Let's have a little bit of fun. We're gonna have a little bit of fun. We're gonna let you talk about your clients a little bit. You've built meaningful relationships with your clients over the years. So here are a few questions about your clients. Which of your clients could have played professionally in another sport? And what was the sport?
Ooh, okay.
Professionally. Mm-hmm. If I let Micah Parsons tell it, he could have played professionally in every other sport. Trying to think, who could have played professionally in another sport? That's a tough one. I might go. Christian Wilkins was a pretty good basketball player. Yeah, okay. He, a post guy, big bodied. Casey Hayward, another one of my guys, hell of a hooper. Jalen Ramsey can hoop too. Derwin James, those guys can play. So yeah, man. I got one of my rookies this year, Jamad McCoy, who was a very high level baseball player coming out of high school. Probably could have went down that route if we wanted to. So yeah, a bunch of these guys are phenomenal athletes that probably could have played multiple sports.
So let's give the people a reference point. Like, how many people do you represent currently?
We're talking about just NFL here?
NFL guys, yeah.
Probably around 62, I would say, or so. 62, 65, somewhere like that.
Give or take one or two. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So you got your guys in there.
Mm-hmm.
Who one of your mantras is family ties.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have family dinner with your clients. Who's like the biggest eater? Who's going to stretch the bill when it comes to eating?
What I will say is, two different answers to that. First, let me say stretch the bill. Charles, I got a funny story, and I'll keep it to Texas since you guys all went to Texas, and that's what the show is about. Charles Omenihu. I remember we went to a rookie dinner one time. You know, we went out to eat his rookie year, and there's probably 5 of us, you know, that went out to eat, and the bill comes back, and it's like $1,200, right? $1,300.
Yeah.
And nobody drank any liquor, right? So I'm like, it's 5 of us. And the bill, so I'm trying to understand how that happens, right? So I grab the bill and I look at it, and Charles had ordered a $600 steak, $700 steak.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Charles, I'm like, what in the world made you order? And he was like, hey, I just said market price. I was like, you didn't want to ask what the market price was? And again, this was a lot earlier on in my career. So, you know, $1,200, you know, I paid it, but I was sitting there like, God damn.
Market price a minute. I like it.
Oh my God. You know, he did not care to ask for the price, and we always mess with him about that. And the steak he brought out was probably, I mean, we take, you know, it didn't taste any different than any of the other steaks at the table. But I mean, I represent a bunch of, you know, big guys. I mean, from Raekwon Davis, you know, to Kelechi Osemele back in the day. You know, I got some big fellas that, you know, they you know, they eat quite a bit.
Off the record, Omenihu might have been at Guest House and has his own table in Austin.
He's there quite a bit.
I love it. Who's the best sports gamer? Who's the Madden? Who's the
Derwin James, hands down.
Okay.
Derwin James, hands down. That might be the best Madden player in the world. You know, at his prime. He has, he has a couple kids now, so he's kind of slowed down. But in his prime, I mean, I've seen Derwin James win, over $70,000 in a matter of a couple hours playing Madden at the Pro Bowl.
Okay. Line me up with him. Line me up.
Yeah,
I got something
you
for him.
don't want the problem. Now, Micah. Now again, Micah's probably gonna get upset because he thinks he's the best gamer in the world. I'm not sure what he doesn't think he's good at. Now that I think about it,
can he sing? Can Micah sing?
I mean, you ask him. I don't.
What off key?
What you want? Adele, what?
Hey, next question. Who is least likely to ride a roller coaster?
Least likely to ride a roller coaster. That's an interesting question. If I'm gonna say something, I'll just say Calvin Ridley. I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, Calvin is just cool, man. Calvin's super cool. You know what I mean? I could just see him being like, nah, I'm not right. Yeah, I'm not riding. Not my thing.
It's not happening.
Not my thing. I would say Calvin is too cool to ride a roller coaster, I think.
I love it. Who could give Usher a good dance battle?
I might go back Christian Wilkins on this one. Christian is
multi-talented.
Yeah. I think I might say Christian. He's I'll say Christian, man. Christian is he's known to kind of get on the dance floor. So probably Christian.
Bro, when they won the national championship and he grabs his leg and goes into a split as a defensive lineman, I was like, yeah, we weren't ready to block him if we would have made it before.
Yeah, man. No, he's a hell of a man, hell of an athlete. But he's gonna have a good time too. He is not afraid of a good time.
I love it. Well, Tony Jones could get with him too because he's our dancer of the group.
Okay.
Okay. Who could go on tour with Bruno Mars?
Micah Parsons. Micah said their answer already.
You know what, man? You know what? Again, I don't know if Kenny Moore can sing. I don't know if y'all know. Kenny Moore. Obviously, phenomenal football player for the Colts. DB nickel. Was the highest paid nickel at one point in his career. He is. He's super stylish. I mean, one of the most best dressed, most stylish guys I know. So I would say, just from a style standpoint, I can see him doing it. But singing, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't put myself in a position really to hear my guys sing. That ain't. We got a great relationship, but we're not sitting around singing around each other. So
we don't either. I want to say that before.
Okay.
Ali wins that. Ali just always wins.
I'm not sure who can sing. To be candid with you,
well,
I'm gonna have to find out.
Yeah, like Wade said, we don't either. But sometimes people that think they can sing just like to sing for you.
There you go. Okay, fair enough. So maybe none of my guys can sing. I've never heard one of my guys get out there and try to. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry, Andre Cisco. Andre Cisco,
He got
safety
the
for the
appropriate
Jets.
last
I'm
name.
so sorry.
Wow.
New York.
Cisco is a
Cisco.
singer. Cisco is a singer. The name kind of goes along with it.
It does.
You know what I mean? But yeah, Andre Cisco. That's what I would say would be somebody I would go with. That yeah, definitely Bruno Mars and Andre Cisco. I can see that. Like Chris Brown and Usher. They're perfect pair. For sure, for sure.
I love it, man. Let's get into a little bit of campus life before we close the show out. 2005 National Championship, 2006 Rose Bowl. Man, what was it like on campus during that time? Were you still on campus or you just got off campus?
I was there for the nat. I think I was there for the first natty, but not the second Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was around campus still, so nah. I mean, those were again, man, it doesn't get any better than football. Texas is the home of football, right? As a state. So you have your university competing for a national title and winning it the way they did against, probably, arguably, what people try to say was the best team ever assembled outside of maybe one of those Miami teams back in the day. And the way BY was able to, I don't want to just say BY, it was a team effort. Obviously, I know a bunch of my guys on that team from, Michael Huff to Michael Griffin, Rashad Bobineau, Brian Carter, I go on and on. But, yeah, man, I think watching, Jamal Charles, I think, was a freshman on that team.
Yep.
Yeah, Jay Charles was a freshman on that team. So, again, man, but just the way it ended with BY kind of walking off, it was definitely a surreal moment.
All right, so let me go because I got one. So you talking about UT and life. So favorite on campus party, the Alphas Non-Greek Step Show, Kappa Weed, or any of the relay parties that were thrown.
I think my favorite party when I was a freshman. No, I'm sorry. It was my freshman year, second semester, or sophomore. I think it was sophomore year. Sophomore year. Me and I had a roommate, Brian, from Gainesville, and we threw a house party.
Wow.
And we threw a house party, and I don't drink. I didn't drink back then, but there was there were some drinks at the party, and we wake up the next morning and we're cleaning up, and literally it's like a TV show. We hear somebody start coming down the stairs, and we look at each other like, hold on, nobody else live here but me and you. And I won't say any names, but somebody and a gentleman and a young lady come stumbling down the stairs. I don't know where they slept. I still don't know.
They were in the
I don't know where they were at. Right,
right there.
They come down the stairs and they go out the door, and we kind of follow them outside the door, like, whoa, what y'all doing? And we look to the left, and there's somebody sleeping in the grass outside. So I would say that was probably the best party I've ever been to.
Okay.
Hey, Gift, that sounds like your party at was it 1, 2, 3?
Jefferson
Commons. Jefferson Commons.
Hey.
I think that now I slept on the couch outside.
Marlon was asleep on the couch on the patio on the third floor. So meanwhile, it's hot. As you know what, it's people in the bedrooms, right doors locked. We don't go into all that, but yes, very similar.
That's after dark. That's for after dark. That's
what? Look. I'm gonna close it out. Isn't that the night that y'all killed Angelo's rabbit?
No, that happened later. So, David, this is
your limitations
in your process, but y'all had a rabbit.
See,
look, he got cut off. He didn't.
No, I'm gonna clear it up. Sly is listening. There was a police that probate the rabbit at the end. We lived with Angelo, right? It was me, Khalid, Daryl, Emmanuel. The rabbit was, Peter, don't get on. The rabbit was the most obese rabbit I've ever seen in my life.
Biggest rabbit you've ever. All white. Rabbit. All white.
He should have been on GLP-1 rabbit.
It was all white. It was great for the probate. Well, Angelo, obviously, he joins up, but he left the rabbit outside, and when the sun went west,
he left the rabbit outside.
When the sun went west, I was the first one home. And for about a decade, members of the chapter was like, this is Waits. He kind of cool, maybe not. But he did kill our rabbit right after the probate. I was just the first one home.
Every iota does it.
I told him to put some water out there. And I did put out some lettuce.
Did you try to save the rabbit though, Waits, when you got out there? Did you?
Hey.
He drove down Riverside.
Shout out to Angelo. Shout out to Sly. Shout out to all the brothers.
Yeah. Hey, David, we want to thank you for coming on tonight, man. We had a good time. I love it, man. Continue doing your thing. Continue signing these people. Continue to grow your millions of dollars,
Being a great
billions
father,
of dollars. I
great
love it.
husband.
Again, how can we support the Fair Catch Foundation?
We'll
Is
put
there a
up.
website?
It'll be out on social media here in the next week or so. Where our event will be our big fundraiser this summer. It might, it's a good chance it'll be here in Austin, back in Austin again for the 10th anniversary. But we'll get that out there soon.
I love it. And if you love Guest House, support Guest House as well. I want to thank everybody for watching tonight's show. Just a quick recap. This is our last show of the season, man. We want to thank some of our special guests.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, we want to give a shout out to some of our guests that have been on this season. Big Sean Rogers, Derek Johnson, Marcus Myers, Wes Bodovich, Jay Wiggins, Reggie Freeman, the Black Sports Moms. Anybody else I'm missing, guys?
Carlton Dixon.
Carlton Dixon.
Carlton
Dixon, CD. Man, we love it. This is what we do. We have a good time with good people. We love our Longhorns. We love sports. Check right here how you can keep going, never miss a game, stay connected to the culture. So go to thehornsman.com and subscribe. Put your email address in there. We got some great things coming up next season. Big things. Ride with us to LSU. Come on, we're going to LSU. Get on the bus. We might have 2 buses this year. It's going to be amazing, but we got great things in store. Get us, again, go to thehornsman.com and subscribe. Make sure you have that for all the updates and the details. But otherwise, we're the Hornsmen, where game meets culture. And we're out.
Shout out to David, man.
Appreciate y'all having me, man.
Red for him, dog. Represent for my people.
No doubt. Y'all have a good one, man.
This is where
have a good
stay on for After Dark, man.
All right, bro.
All right, now.
Yes, sir.
Hey.
Let's go.
Chat.